Chapter 39. It was an absolutely gorgeous day as Siv walked to the station and got on the train, after yelling at an old woman, "Do old people not have any respect for right and wrong anymore? Let me tell you something. When I was a kid, we children were taught to look up to the old in the village. They stood for morality and wisdom because they had had their whole life to reflect upon right and wrong. But there is no wonder this country is fucked up if it has older people like you. Seriously, why don't you just slap me on the tits and call me a chemist?" She could sit down on her seat.
"Oh, I'm sorry, the old woman had said. "Can you help me with my bag?"
"I will not help you with your bag."
"Can you help me with my bag?"
the woman said to the man who had helped her to get the bag up. "Of course," the young gentleman said and stared hatefully at Siv for a moment as he got down the bag. And then the old lady was forced to walk down the aisle completely dressed in black to the seat where she was supposed to sit. The first time she had seen the man who was sitting in her seat, she had gotten scared and hadn't dared to go up to him. He was absolutely massive, with huge arms, and he looked like he came from Northern Ireland, and if you don't know what that's supposed to mean, well, I guess you've never been to Northern Ireland then.
"Excuse me,"
the old lady said.
"but you happen to be sitting in my seat,"
she said and showed him the ticket. "Just sit someplace else," said the man, annoyed, and looked out the window as if to say that the conversation was over. By chance, Siv happened to hear this, which made her absolutely furious. She jumped up from her seat. "Give her seat," Siv said, so mad that she started to speak with a heavy accent. "Who the hell are you?" "Name is Siv Brandt, and if you don't give her seat, I'll throw you off this train." The man looked straight at her. He sat with his arms crossed so his muscles swelled up, and then he started to laugh at her. "I would love to see that."
"Really, it is not necessary. I can just sit someplace else,"
the old woman said. "This is not about you," Siv said without even looking at her. "You want me to throw you off the train?" "Yeah, I would love to see that." "It can be arranged," Siv said angrily, stormed back to her seat, grabbed her bag and picked up a small bottle, slid down on the seat and took a drink. Not too much. The taste was horrible. Then she got up, went back to the man, grabbed hold of his white t-shirt and pulled him up from the seat. The tube came up from the underground. It was 3:30, but Leon had not had a chance to wake up. He stared out the window until the train reached West Ham. Almost missed the station because of some dad. Zombie walked down all the stairs, gave money to a beggar. But then the conductor came and explained you could not just wrestle down and tie up a guy because you felt like it. If he didn't want to change his seat, she should have come to him instead, and he would have taken care of the problem. Siv defended herself. It was not her fault he had wanted to be thrown off the train. He passed the brick houses, those that just looked like a container. They always made him depressed. Then, of course, there were those that looked like a container on top of another container, on top of a garage, which, incidentally, looked like a container. Tried to avoid an old friend / one-night stand. "Hi, Leon! Leon!" He could hear how she came running after him. "Leon!" He turned around. "Brenda? Why are you avoiding me?" She panted, angry. "I'm not avoiding you." "Yes, you are. You were standing right in front of me, and I said hi, and then you just walked off. Not cool, bro." "I'm sorry, I'm just..." Don't you worry. It's not from you. At least I don't think so. There are 3 or 4 to choose from." "Charming." "You're the one to talk. You already have a son. I might have 4 guys to choose from, but in the end, my kid will only have one dad." "So that's what you're going to do. You will choose the father for the kid." "Oh, if I could. Speaking of which, I heard that Joss will be released on, what is it, Thursday?" "Tuesday." "You all should come over to my place. We will organize a party for him. I've got a surprise for him. So when you pick him up at the prison, you're not to say a word, okay? It's going to be perfect." She gave Leon a list of things to do. Half of them he would not even remember. He just walked back to his house and felt the gaze from the neighbors across the street when he tried to open the door. After a while, the man was let back on the train, and they could leave the station, and Siv glared at him as he walked by. Later, she was reading How to Get Friends and How to Keep Them while the English countryside rushed by. She loved this book. Honestly, she used to be so socially awkward, but not anymore, and it was all thanks to this book. It was full of helpful tips, like this one. Lesson 12. Embarrassing Questions. Dear reader, in the previous lesson, we were talking about embarrassing situations. We learned the difference between embarrassing and tragic, and talked about good reasons to feel ashamed. In this lesson, we will talk about embarrassing questions and why they are bad. Have you ever been in a situation when you say something and don't get the expected result? It gets quiet in the room, and yet it's like the person you're talking to can't hear you. So you repeat the question, but it only makes matters worse. The person looks the other way. Maybe the person is hiding their face in their hands. There's an unpleasant atmosphere in the air. You repeat the question, but that only makes matters worse. The person is leaving the room. You are very confused as to what is going on. You have just asked an embarrassing question. The important reason to avoid embarrassing questions is that they reveal details about people they don't want others to know. Let us say that you were asking, "Are you stupid?" You would expect a straight yes or no answer, but it gets quiet in the room, so you repeat the question, "Are you stupid?" But it only makes matters worse. The person looks the other way. Maybe the person is hiding their face in their hands. There's an unpleasant atmosphere in the air. You repeat the question, "Are you stupid?" But that only makes matters worse. The person is leaving the room. You are very confused as to what is going on. You just wanted to know if the person was stupid or not. This is embarrassing for the other person, because it means that you are probably on to the fact that the person is stupid. And it's embarrassing to be stupid. Exercises. Try to come up with your own questions that you would find embarrassing. Test them on other people. If the atmosphere gets really uncomfortable and weird, you have succeeded. As a true scientist, Siv had of course tested this, but it had taken a while before she had figured out the correct formula. For instance, she would have found it very embarrassing if she would forget that vanadium had atomic number 23 in the periodic table. But when she asked a person on the bus if he knew the atomic number of vanadium, he just started to laugh. Do you know which atomic number vanadium has in the periodic table? No. And you don't think that's embarrassing, that you don't know that? And then he just had started to laugh. You're funny. Which had made Siv confused. People had called her a lot of things, but no one had ever called her funny before. Of course, now she knew people perceived the world differently. She had taken everything she had seen and experienced as an absolute truth. The couple across the street hated Leon and Joss. This wasn't the place they wanted to raise their child, but they did not have enough cash to do it someplace else. So they concentrated on eliminating all crooks from the neighborhood. They had already put Joss behind bars by constantly calling the police every time they saw something suspicious. Like, for instance, the time when Leon and Joss actually became tired of living in such a dump and decided to clean up. Since Carrie was on maternity leave with the baby, she had had the time to spy through the window in the nursery. When she called her husband Glenn, she whispered, "Glenn, you have to come home right now. Something very suspicious is going on." "What? What is going on?" "They are cleaning the house." "My God, that is suspicious." "When was the last time we saw them clean?" "I don't think we have ever seen them clean." "They're even scrubbing the floors," Carrie said, looking with the binoculars. "Okay, they are clearly getting rid of evidence," Glenn said. "Listen, you must keep track of where the garbage goes. If you see that they stuff black garbage bags into the truck of a car or in the van, that means that we hit a jackpot. Then they probably try to get rid of a corpse or equipment for a drug laboratory. If you see anything like that, I want you to call the police immediately, okay?" "Okay, I will be there as soon as possible." "Hey, Joss, do we have any more of those black garbage bags?" "I bought like 4 packs." "Yeah, well, we're out." "Wait, I still got some," Joss said, and dropped the roll from the second floor. Leon had worked his way down to the party layer of 2009. It had been a good summer. They had grilled almost every night. Joss had lost his virginity to Brenda, but everything that was brown and green wasn't good memories, like the thing Leon pulled up from the drain in the shower. Hey, Joss, remember that kitten we used to have? We had a kitten? Yeah, we bought it at a garage sale because we wanted to give it a better life or something like that. It was the week we tried to be vegetarians. Ah, yeah. We remember that week. Toughest week of me life. And then Joss said, we really had a cat. And they for a few days. Then we went to Bristol. And that was the last we saw of it. A while later, when they went out with the trash to the van, they were talking about what they were going to do now that they had cleaned the whole house. I know, Joss said. We should celebrate by having a big party. I don't know. Wouldn't it be nice if it was actually clean for a week? I mean, there's nothing wrong with parties. It just doesn't always have to be at our place. You know what I'm saying? We have to be smarter about this and have parties at other houses instead. We should celebrate that we have cleaned by having a party at some other people's house. That's what we should do. Oh, can we have one of those parties for kids at McDonald's? What? I always wanted to have one of those. And I will never have kids of my own. Think about it. Great food, we can jump around in the ball pit, and it's at someone else's, so we don't have to clean. Leon smiled. You're really serious about this? Yeah, it could be fun. Okay, Leon said. Then let's do it. Let us have a party at McDonald's and trash the place. Of course, it just turned out to be one of those things that they never did. Just like losing the love handles. Seeing the Rolling Stones before Mick Jagger died. Actually rob a bank and retire in Thailand or Cambodia. Trickle cocktails and get their feet massaged by hookers. They were very busy with plans that never materialized. Joss was washing the windows very suspiciously when he first heard the sirens. Leon was inside somewhere. The first reaction was paranoia. Like when you actually have something to hide, but then he just ignored the thought and continued moving dirt from one side of the window to the other. He was wearing yellow rubber gloves, clear evidence that he was trying to avoid leaving fingerprints. It was later when the sirens were much closer that Joss actually got worried. He went inside. Leon? Leon, do you hear that? Yeah? Did you do something? No. Did you? Don't think so. But when the cars stopped right outside their house, Joss and Leon looked nervously at each other and jumped out a window in the backyard. Police, open up! Joss was already halfway through the neighbor's garden. He was a paranoid little weasel that loved cheese. Then they hid at the cemetery behind a gravestone while one of the janitors, or whatever they were called, walked around, just next to them, and obviously did not care what they were doing there. Only once he came by with his rake and wanted them to lift their feet. But that was before Joss went to prison. Now Leon was standing at the front door, and watched as Carrie spied on him with the binoculars. Glenn was standing next to her, holding the baby. Leon waved. Carrie adjusted the binoculars like she couldn't really believe what she saw. Glenn rocked the baby that tried to eat his own hand.
You know what we should do?
Carrie said, looking at her husband.
We should give him the finger just to make sure that he understands that we don't like him.
Oh, that's a great idea, Glenn said. They both gave him the finger, and Leon stopped waving, as if his hand had withered.
That's right, I knew that he would stop waving.
Holding the binoculars.
People like that are very cowardly. Soon as they sense the slightest resistance, they stop. Oh, I just got another idea. Oh, that's going to blow your mind.
What?
Hold on to something. This is going to blow your mind,
Carrie said and paused for effect.
Put down the baby. We should start our own neighborhood watch.